All right. I'd like to invite all of you to take a deep cleansing breath with me. And let it out slowly. Because now I'm going to ask you to picture the person in the world that you have the most conflict with. Visualize that person that just gets under your skin. Got him? So why is it your spouse? Except for BJ. I'll tell you, as a couples therapist who sat in 30,000 sessions, there's a very specific reason that you picked that person. But that's not the talk we're here for. So tell your planner to bring me back for the why did I marry who I married talk, or just come see me for therapy and I'll give you the version there. What I want to talk about today, though, is what happens in you when you're in conflict. Because the truth is, it's never the other person. It's the reaction that you have to the other person that's actually the issue that's at hand. And in my field, the pause that happens between reaction and response, that's what we call differentiation of self. Differentiation of self is the ability to stay connected to people with whom we disagree and with whom we're in conflict without fusing, cutting off, or exploding. And let me tell you something about therapists. This is a little trade secret here. Therapists are terrified of couples, first of all. Because that's where most of the fusion happens, right? But it also happens in our offices. And it also happens with our coworkers and our colleagues and in our families. And so the idea of differentiation of self is being able to manage ourselves. And again, make that pause between reaction and response. And think of all the times, all the offers of conflict you get over the course of a day. Right? You have that coworker who makes that snarky remark, or that work email that you get in the middle of the night, and against your better judgment, you decide to check it. Or you're in the practice, patient's late, the schedule's booked, and tension starts to rise. And then your brain pulls the fire alarm. Right? Some people call it amygdala hijack. It's that space where all of a sudden everything starts to rush through your body. And you can either choose, and I use that word very intentionally, you can either choose to be reactive or you can choose to be differentiated. Differentiation is what shows up in that space. When people lack differentiation, there's a whole lot of issues that come with it, and there's a whole lot of conflict that shows up. But it shows up three different ways. The first way, when people lack differentiation, is they lose themselves, and it's fusion. And in our teams, that looks like people who go along when they really don't agree, people who placate. And what they end up doing is they get resentful, and then that resentment means they pull away and they stop contributing. And when they stop contributing, our teams suffer, and most of our great ideas don't ever get said. Another possibility when someone lacks differentiation is they lose their relationships, or what we call cutoff. This one's interesting in society because what we think of as cutoff, we'll often say, well, I just had boundaries. But cutoff specifically is actually avoidance masquerading. And then sometimes we'll actually lose both and we'll explode. We go Vesuvius, right? The entire practice lights up. Everybody's on fire. And the patients feel it. Our productivity suffers, our morale suffers, and the culture of the practice crumbles. Differentiation is the antidote to this. I don't know if you guys know, but the world isn't real differentiated right now. And so it needs you to show up. Not other people, it needs you to show up more differentiated. And here's the hopeful piece for the world, is that differentiation is contagious. One calm nervous system in the room quiets down the whole room. It gives other people space, other people on the team space to breathe. The way that we show up differentiated, I like to think of it as a bridge, and I call it the 5 C's. And the 5 C's are the planks on a bridge. On one side is the emotional reactivity that all of us are in certain situations with certain people. And on the other side of the bridge is growth, emotional maturity, learning. And if we want to cross that bridge, we need to use these 5 C's. The Buddhists use a term equanimity. It means the calm in the storm. So if we're going to step onto that bridge, the first place we need to step is in calm. Because if we can't bring ourselves down, why step on the bridge in the first place? Why not just react the way that I've always reacted? After calm, though, we have to have clarity. We have to have an understanding of what might be happening. We have to be able to see through the fog so that we know there's still a path forward toward growth. And it's really easy at any point on one of these planks to run back to reactivity, because that's the simple. The third plank is what I think is the most important plank, and that's curiosity rather than certainty. Because certainty shuts us down. If I'm certain that you're wrong and I'm right, and if I'm certain that my solution is the only solution that's going to help this practice, and if you don't go with me, then I'm justified in being mad at you about it, then we're not going to ever be creative enough to come to the solutions. So being curious instead of certain about what's happening in me, about what's happening in them, what's happening in the team, and being open to new solutions. The courage to stay present. When you start to grow and change and learn, the other people around you aren't going to immediately do it too. And they're going to push. And if you know anything about systems, systems like to stay the same. And that's families, and that's practices. And so ultimately, we need to have the courage when people push back to know this is the way. This is the way to growth, and this is the way to emotional maturity, and for our practice, our team, our family to be able to move forward. And the last piece, and the fifth plank as we're stepping across the bridge into more growth, is staying connected, but while also holding ourselves. Right? We don't give in and change and be what other people want us to be, and we also don't cut off from other people. What we do is we stay in connection and we don't lose ourselves. This is how peace walks into a room, and this is how leaders steady storms when there's a group of people that are having a hard time getting along or understanding one another. So my call to action is this. Who in your life, in your world, in your practice needs you to show up 10% more differentiated, more emotionally mature? And notice I didn't say who in your practice needs to be 10% more differentiated, because I bet you all could give me names. But the idea is it's in you and what you can do. And the reality is that one calm nervous system in the room, again, will change the team. The world needs you to hold your center. And as you hold your center, and as you stay calm, and as you move through clarity, and then into curiosity, and you move to courage, and ultimately you end up connected while staying yourself, that will change the world. And can you imagine a world of people that are differentiated like this? Isn't that the world that we'd all like to live in? Because it certainly is the world I would. Thank you.